You hear the bowl before you see the knife. Clay on stone. A small, hollow sound that says everything is already decided. A boy kneels on a dirt floor. His father's hands are steady. The knife flashes once, then silence. He isn't being punished. He's being prepared. Prepared to serve a god who lives behind red walls. Prepared to give up his future in exchange for the right to live inside history. In China's imperial palaces, thousands of men gave up their manhood to serve emperors who trusted no one except them. This is the story China tried to forget. The rise and fall of the eunuchs. Because when you take everything from a man, he becomes capable of anything. In early China, castration was a punishment worse than death, erasing not only flesh, but family. But rulers soon discovered a darker use. A man who cannot father children cannot build a dynasty. He is loyal by necessity. So the court began to create eunuchs deliberately. They guarded concubines, managed palace chores, and delivered messages into rooms where ordinary men could never go. They were neither male nor female, insider nor outsider. And that made them perfect tools. By the Han Dynasty, these tools had learned to think. They controlled access to the emperor, filtered information, and whispered when others shouted. One word in the wrong ear could destroy a minister. A sealed scroll could change a kingdom. Outwardly, Confucian scholars ran the empire. Inwardly, eunuchs decided who reached the throne room. The court called them parasites. The emperor called them indispensable. Dynasties rose and swore they'd never repeat the mistake. And every single one did. The Tang dynasty turned eunuchs into generals. They commanded imperial guards, controlled the flow of decrees, and decided which wars were worth fighting. When emperors trusted them too much, the eunuchs killed emperors. When they trusted them too little, the eunuchs replaced them. It was power without a surname. And that made it terrifying. You took our bodies, they could have said, but we took your empire. The Ming dynasty perfected the system. Behind the gates of the Forbidden City, 178 acres of silence and gold, lived tens of thousands of eunuchs. They ran the kitchens, the treasury, the wardrobe, the archives, the gardens. Even the emperor's dreams passed through their hands. One department stood above all, the Eastern Depot, a secret police force staffed entirely by eunuchs. Its purpose was to protect the throne. Its method was fear. They spied, tortured, and executed anyone who questioned imperial will. At their height, eunuchs could imprison generals and censor historians. The empire's heartbeat was measured in the footsteps of men who no longer cast a shadow in the family register. If the eunuch system had a face, it was Wei Zhongxian. Born poor, castrated young, clever enough to survive anything. He served the Tianqi emperor, a man more interested in carpentry than ruling. While the emperor built furniture, Wei built an empire. He controlled the treasury, the army, and the Eastern Depot. He erased rivals and rewrote history. He even built temples in his own honor and demanded that citizens worship him. They called him 9,000 years. The emperor, 10,000 years. Even flattery had boundaries. When the emperor died, Wei's world collapsed. The next ruler ordered his arrest. Wei hanged himself with a silk sash, the same fabric that had once symbolized his power. His death was meant to end the age of eunuchs. But power leaves traces. Every emperor after him vowed to destroy the system, and everyone failed. Most eunuchs never ruled anything. They were boys sold by desperate parents. Families were told, "Your son will live in the palace. He'll never go hungry." They left out the part about the knife. The operation was done with wine, water, and luck. Everything removed, the wound packed with bamboo to keep it open. Many bled to death before the week was out. Those who lived carried their missing parts in jars of brine, proof of loyalty, in case anyone doubted. Inside the palace, their world ran on hierarchy. Lower ranks cleaned and cooked. Higher ones kept the emperor's seal, his secrets, his schedule. They moved silently, learned to read expressions, and survived by being invisible. But invisibility came with loneliness. In a culture built on family, they had none. No wife, no children, no ancestors waiting with incense. So they built false families, fathers and sons among fellow eunuchs, a fragile imitation of the lineage they'd lost. Some sought peace in art or faith. One, Tian Yi, served for 60 years, loyal to 3 emperors. When he died, the emperor built him a grand tomb, the only way a man without heirs could still live forever. Most others vanished without a name. Their obedience, their suffering, and their silence, swallowed by the palace walls. By the 1600s, rebellion and invasion burned the Ming Empire down. The new Qing dynasty promised, "No more eunuchs in power." And yet even the Manchus kept them, because emperors still needed servants who could be trusted with secrets and silk. By the early 1900s, the Forbidden City held only a few hundred left. Old men serving a child emperor named Puyi. When the dynasty collapsed in 1912, the palace remained, frozen in ritual, while the world outside became a republic. 12 years later, the army expelled the imperial household. Hundreds of eunuchs walked out with nowhere to go, carrying their bedding and bowls past guards who mocked them. They had served emperors for centuries. Now they served no one. Some begged on the streets, some sold relics stolen from the palace, others simply disappeared. The empire had used them until it no longer needed to remember them. One boy was late to history's party. Sun Yaoting, born 1902. His father castrated him in hope of a palace job, but by the time he arrived, the emperor's throne was already empty. He spent his life as a relic of a vanished world. He saw warlords, revolution, communism, television. He once said, "They told us we were serving Heaven's son." But heaven never thanked us when he died in 1996. He was called the last eunuch of China. His death closed a chapter 2,000 years long, and one that China never truly wanted to read aloud. Every new age needs villains for its old mistakes. When dynasties fell, they blamed the eunuchs. When republics rose, they erased them. When communism came, it called them the face of feudal rot. They embarrassed everyone. A culture built on filial duty couldn't bear to remember the men who'd been forced to cut theirs away. So their names became insults, their history, silence. Only recently have historians started to dig them back up, finding artists, explorers, and engineers among the records. The great Admiral Zheng He, who led fleets across the Indian Ocean to Africa a century before Columbus, was a eunuch too. The empire tried to erase his body, but it couldn't erase his reach. The eunuch story isn't ancient trivia, it's a mirror. Every empire still finds its versions of them. People who trade a piece of themselves for safety, access, or favor. They may keep their bodies intact, but they learn the same posture of obedience. Power always demands a sacrifice, and someone always volunteers. The Forbidden City still stands, its courtyards swept, its silence rehearsed. Tourists come for emperors and dragons, not for the men who kept their lamps lit. But if you stand in those halls at dusk, you might hear the sound of felt soles brushing stone, the faint cough before a bow, the echo of 1,000 voices that history tried to forget. All that remains are echoes of voices that were never meant to be heard.